Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Game Over Winnipeg. My name is Brady. I will be one of your hosts here tonight as I am joined by my fantastic co-host, Houde. It has been a minute since we've had a show together. How are you
I
doing?
was thinking that. I know. I was like, I feel like I've had so many fun shows. I feel like you've done so many lately, but I feel like it's been a while since it's been just the two of us. And I have to say, these are always my favorite shows because Brady is smart and I like talking to Brady, but also Brady understands my incoherence. So it's like I don't have to like sometimes I don't have to finish the thought that I've lost partway through because Brady's like, no, I'm following and I'll save your point here. And it's really fantastic. And I really appreciate that about you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you too, Lyss. You make this show very easy to do, and I very much look forward to when we get to hop on here together. And I mean, not the most interesting matchup, although there were a lot of storylines coming into tonight's game. The Jets were on a 3-game losing streak after going on a bit of a heater, and no better team to try and break that against than the Chicago Blackhawks. Would you? Well, let's just go straight up. What'd you think of the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I feel like that's always how I start these things. But like there are times when you watch this team that you're like, yeah, this is a team that's only won 6 games, you know? And I know they're all professionals and all these different kinds of things, but they're just not that great. So I felt like the Jets just looked a little bit sharper in a lot of areas. Then I think the best recent comparison is that Dallas game, right? Where it was just so obvious that they were playing hockey against a really good club, you know? So that I definitely got the opposite sense tonight. And so everyone just looked a little bit sharper, a little bit cleaner. The mistakes didn't look as bad and things like that. So all it just felt like a really good game.
For sure, yeah. And like I personally was partially disappointed in how the Jets played tonight, but at the same time not. It's really tough when you play a team that is like very obviously a worse team than you, because tonight, like, I thought the Jets were kind of pedestrian in the first period, kind of pedestrian in the third period, but the second period is when it was like, okay, this is the team I signed up to watch, you know.
Yeah.
um
Mm-hmm.
but but like, I don't know, there's just something about the consistency with this team lately where it just hasn't really been there, I find. And I think that a lot of that has to do with kind of the way the you know, the lines have kind of shaken out. But regardless, tonight was an all-around good game from the Jets. They did well at keeping the Blackhawks to the outside. They did well at what's the word? Neutralizing Connor Bedard, despite the fact that he did get that first goal. Before we do hop into, you know, talking about the matchups, the lineups, and stuff like that, we got to talk about Connor Bedard because he is the guy who is selling the tickets tonight. I think the Jets had almost a packed barn tonight, which we haven't seen in a while, but that
Good.
is not surprising. What'd you think of you know, Connor Bedard and how the Jets kind of you know, played against him and everything like that?
It's fun because I see flashes of the Connor McDavid when I watch him play in the sense that I was in the rink for Connor McDavid just 2 days ago, so obviously there's that recency bias. But every now and then, when there's a little bit of space, you're like, oh, I see what's coming here, kind of thing, and they start getting a little bit exciting. And it's just for those little spurts and flashes, but it's like there's a lot there. Like obviously he's not Connor McDavid out there, but like the little stutters and the little flashes of those things make me fully believe that it's in there and it will be there once he's not, a child. So I thought he was really fun to watch tonight. Like he doesn't look like an 18-year-old out there. He really doesn't. He looks more fresh, but not necessarily younger. Like he's got some poise to his game as well. Like he's a fun player to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you in regards to the comment about like McDavid. It's like you see those flashes that he does have, and you can see where this player is going to end up. And of course, he's still 18 right now, so he's still kind of finding his footing in the league. You know, he gets knocked off the puck on that one where he's trying to dangle around DeMello, and he kind of just stands him up and lets him know, hey man, like that's just not going to fly around here. I thought the Jets did pretty well at neutralizing him, but I think also at the same time, it's like going back to the McDavid comparison. It's like McDavid still, at very least, has, obviously he's a older, has, been in the league longer, all those points aside. He's got an actual team around him, whereas the Blackhawks, I mean, it's Connor Bedard and his merry men, right? I mean, Anthony Beauvillier is on his line, and he's an interesting player. He's had an interesting career, but at the same time, it was his first game of the season this year. He's not, I don't know. He's not like a premier player in this league. Like he's not even like a Zach Hyman or anything like that. Where, so I just think the comparison with him and Bedard, or sorry, with McDavid and Bedard is warranted, but at the same time, it's like I can definitely see how Bedard just can't really take over the game tonight because I mean, who all does he have, right? He did get the
Jared Tenorti, bro. He's got Jared Tenorti out there.
That he does. He ended up getting the first goal tonight off of a weird bounce off of Declan Chisholm's skate. I want to talk about Declan Chisholm really quickly. But also I want to give you space to hop in here. Did you see anything specific about him that stood out? How are you feeling on Declan Chisholm getting his first game of the season?
Well, looking outside of the actual in-game thing, like really happy he got his chance to play tonight. I know he's been wanting it. He's been wanting it for a couple of years and stuff like that. Really glad that they gave him some looks on the power play. That's what you do when you bring in a player like that. I know it would make sense regardless, swapping out for Schmidt and things like that because he's taken the same role. But that's where Declan Chisholm shines. And it's the sort of stuff that you're only really going to get to see once he gets more comfortable because it requires a little bit more of a dominant, confident sort of style of play. But it's the same thing. And I'll say the same thing about him too. There are flashes, right? Like of that player that we know and that we've all seen on the Moose for a couple of years. I thought he was fine. Like I don't like there were a couple of things that like little mistakes here and there and things like that made it, when you watch this team as often as I do, I was like, okay, like you can sort of tell that this isn't someone who plays a ton with this team and stuff like that. But like, I thought he was fine. Like it was a first game and he was playing with Dylan Sandberg. And I think it was okay. I really don't have a lot of noteworthy things to say about him.
Well, that's your take on it. I thought when I saw this guy playing today, all I could think was there's no reason we should ever see Logan Stanley suit up in a Jets uniform again, barring.
Well, he could be like kind of bad, and we could still say there's no reason to ever see Logan. Like the bar is not.
But I mean, like this felt cementing to me because it's just like this. And listen, it was one game. I also think I want to give credit to the coaching staff for making sure that they got him into the lineup again. It is already the 23rd game of the season, so not that early. But they of course he did get his conditioning stint with the Moose. But I thought that their decision to put him in tonight's game. I mean, the Blackhawks are basically the perfect transition team from AHL to NHL, as they are half of an AHL team and half of an NHL team. And I thought Chisholm looked great tonight. Like he was really moving his feet. I thought that he had a really good game. There was some, you mentioned that he had some gaffes. Personally, there was only two things I can think of that he maybe could have improved. Like there was the one where he was in behind the net and he tried to make a pass out and just kind of fanned on it. It led to a couple chances for the Blackhawks. But that was also a player, in the last 20 minutes of a hockey game where you're trying to shut down the lead, and the coaching staff felt confident to continue putting him out there and moving, other than that, like he was really moving his feet tonight. I thought he was extremely poised. I thought the way his puck management was very, very high. And he seemed like he wasn't just trying to get the puck off of his stick to try and avoid any sort of, mistakes or anything like that. I really liked his game, and I would really highly like to see him play next game, because I think that the Jets could have a decent third pair guy here that can maybe make some differences.
Yeah, 100%. And I think and maybe I'm being too harsh. I didn't think there were like gaps necessarily, but there was just little things. One like zone exit on the power play that it was kind of like, okay, like
that was the other one. Yeah.
Yeah, like where it's just like they're noticeable, like, but like you said, he's a little more poised and like solid. He was solid, and then that's what you look for. Like when a player like I don't know, like Dylan DeMello screws up, it's not as obvious as when Nikolai Ehlers screws up, right? And I put Declan Chisholm into more that Nikolai Ehlers style of play. It's a little bit more like exciting and stuff like that. So those mistakes just always look a little bit more drastic than they are. So I really don't think that he did anything that would upset me in any capacity, but I 100% agree with you that is our seventh defenseman. And I would like to see him play more than just on pace for 4 games in a season.
Yeah, and you know, you even mentioned that it was kind of his first game, and that's kind of just getting in the rhythm with the team. And yeah, I think that gaff on the power play again is just a getting used to the players you're playing with kind of thing. I mean, it was his first what's it called, try on playing a game. It was his first game, right? So he's still getting in the rhythm of the rest of the team, but I thought he had a good game. Other than that, I mean, tonight's game, like how are you feeling? I know for me personally, I think that I want to talk about the top line because I think that they had a very interesting game. I thought Mark Scheifele had a great game. I thought Nikolai Ehlers had a great game. And I know that you also wanted to speak on that line as well too. So I'm just gonna lay it on a dish here for you. What'd you think?
Yeah, I mean, Nikolai Ehlers and Mark Scheifele in particular, I love getting to watch play together. They're fun. They are fun. And there were little things. There was even it was the play that, like, the whistle after this play was the penalty that Chicago took where the Jets scored their first goal. So it was an offense or a defensive zone penalty for the Blackhawks. And there was like this fun little thing where like Nikolai Ehlers kind of darted through the middle at like a 45 angle, pass back to Josh Pat. Like they just do a little bit more when they're together. And I think it's fun. That particular sequence had nothing to do with Mark Scheifele, but there was good possession and they were able to do those sorts of things. And I think that's like a little easy example to show like that there's so much potential for that line to do a little bit more chaotic, exciting, not so stagnant offense at 5-on-5, which is, that's sort of what we see a little bit from, the third line and those types of things where they play more of that structured offense. There's potential for them to do less structured offense. The big thing that I wanted to talk about with them is more on the defensive zone side. Cody in the chat says that line is terrifying in both directions, which is 100% true. But I was watching this game today and I've developed a conspiracy theory. Uh-oh. I feel like I have a conspiracy theory every game. Okay. And maybe I'm going to say this and people are going to be like, okay, I talk about this all the time, but I'm like, I've never heard anyone actually talk about it. Maybe it's just kind of a given, but when the Winnipeg Jets are playing defense, so when there's a turnover or whatever, I find that the top line always forechecks deeper and plays their defense deeper than the other lines. And what I mean by that is they don't sit back on like their 1-2-2 or whatever as much and have their guys floating at the red line. They're up a little bit more because they want those players to have the chance to scoop up that puck. And if they forecheck properly, like really, get that offense going again. Mm-hmm. And I find that they're not as far back on defense as the other lines. Like obviously there's always the one guy, sometimes two guys, like a little bit deeper in, but I find that the guys who are more in the middle of that defense play a little bit higher up, which always makes it look like they aren't getting back in time. Mm-hmm. And it makes them look worse than I think they actually are.
Well, I mean, think of in the neutral zone, right? If they're playing on a puck, there's a puck battle. What do? These guys are all three of those guys are offensively minded guys. So I think that this is just cheating, but just in the offensive zone, right? You're cheating, hoping that the breakout on the other team is gonna be, it's not gonna be successful, and then you have Kyle Connor standing right in front of the crease on a loose puck, and bing bang boom, you end up getting a really cheap and easy goal. But I do agree with you that I think that it does, at least what I think you were getting at, that it does kind of handcuff them, at least on the back check. And so maybe that is one of the reasons why those guys are a little bit less you don't really see them as much on the back check. And then also at that point, when you're so far away, it's like, okay, well, if I bust my ass to get back and they're already in the zone and I'm at the other blue line, what's the point of me busting my ass? I might as well save my energy. And then I think that is a great point, because I haven't really like honed in really on what they do in the offensive zone and what kind of leads to, the lack of back checking kind of thing from those guys. Whereas for me personally, like my thoughts on that line, and also just in general, like I think that this kind of leads into more of a discussion about the lineup as a whole, is I just think that the Jets are putting a little the Jets are putting too many eggs in one basket in regards to that top line. But also at the same time, like that line is they're just trying to do too much in regards to offense. Like think about the in the third period there, the play that gets broken up by Scheifele on the left side, near the blue line, just inside the zone. He passes it over to Ehlers. He ends up going down low into the slot, gets a perfect like pass right to him, and he could just one time this and likely beats Soderblom and could potentially score there. But then it ends up turning into him trying to pass it all the way across the ice to Kyle Connor, who again gets the puck, but at the same time he's even further from the net than Scheifele was. So you kind of lose the momentum that they had going into this there, where a shot, even if Soderblom makes the save, like Connor could potentially be there to pick up the rebound. Like it doesn't need to always, I just think that having those three together, while we do see some really incredible, some brilliant, offensively minded plays, it just feels like they're doing too much.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I have this, everything I think about is thinking about in math capacity. And what I'm seeing right now is Kyle Connor, if you have Kyle Connor and you say this is a 30 goal scorer, but if he has a good player passing to him, he's a 50 goal scorer. And you sort of see that and you're like, okay, it's a plus 20. And we're going to put someone in a position where they're just going to pass to Connor. And if they're a 20 goal scorer, maybe they're only going to score 10, but we're willing to make that sacrifice because it's going to make this player that much better. I feel like that sort of vibe is kind of what's happening right now with Mark Scheifele, where Mark Scheifele is acting like he needs to be the guy to change his style of play to make Kyle Connor better. And it's twofold why I don't like that. One, because I think Mark Scheifele, is a very effective player, and this is dulling his effectiveness big time. And the second part of it is that he's not even the best type of player to bring that out of Kyle Connor. It's like, if he was so good at passing and it was like, oh my gosh, like I probably wouldn't get as frustrated with it, but he's not even bringing the best out of Kyle Connor by not being himself. Like it's really just not working for me. And I think that's not supposed to be a dig at him. It's
Mm-hmm.
And I said this on the last game over that I was on it against Dallas. Like I just think Mark Scheifele is that good. And I feel like we're not seeing that version of him right now because he's just looking for the pass instead of looking for the right play.
Yeah, and there's a great comment here in the chat from MBHA Ball Hockey. Connor looks like he's trying too hard to score, and then says, "Stop gripping the stick." Yeah, like I think that, like, as much as I love Kyle Connor, I love what he can bring to this team. I really think that he's just had a rough Jesus, I can't even talk. He just has had a rough couple games recently, and it seems like when he's away from the puck, he is pretty useless, and that's something we all know about Kyle Connor. That's not the reason we have him on this team. That's not the reason he makes money. He makes money because he puts the puck in the net. But at the same time, like, I am just getting so frustrated watching, and you hit the nail exactly on the head on how I feel about Scheifele and Connor being together. It just feels like there's so much deferring over to Kyle Connor. It's always Connor being the shooter. That's one of the issues on the power play, which, it wasn't fantastic tonight. The one goal they scored was just Velarde having two guys draped on him and getting the puck over to Mark Scheifele, who once again can score goals. He had 42 goals last year. I had this comment just the other day. I don't think I actually mentioned it on the show at all, but I know I tweeted it for sure. And it's like, it's so nice to see that that Mark Scheifele remembers that he can also shoot the puck and he can also score. The Perfetti goal the other night on the power play is because Mark Scheifele shoots the puck. It is a bit of a slap pass, bit of both. But the point is, it doesn't need to always go through Kyle Connor on the power play when it's obvious that all they're trying to do is get the puck to Kyle Connor. It's so easy. It's so easy. And there's other goal scorers who've existed who are able to, have the, be the trigger man. Like, again, obviously Kyle Connor is not an Alex Ovechkin or anything like that. So stop treating him like that. And so I feel like the way that this team will succeed is if they can find a way to, if Scheifele can realize, again, despite the fact that he's kind of evolved this game, he's passing the puck a lot more, all the good things we can say about it. At the same time, I think it is taking away from the offense there. And, moving forward, I would love to hear your take on how you think kind of the lines should be shaking out. Because I personally do not believe that this team will be the best version of itself with Connor, Scheifele, and Ehlers together, despite the fact that line can be a force, can take over games. The issue is that they only can, not will.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think I want to say you and I have different takes on what we want the lines to look like. But my personal belief is that the Jets need to run like a 1A, 1B sort of thing. Like, I don't really care which is top and which is the second line, but I want to run the pairing of Kyle Connor with Cole Perfetti and then Mark Scheifele with Nikolai Ehlers, and I don't care who they play with. Gabe Vilardi, to me, should go on that on the Perfetti Connor line, because I think he brings a very good skill set to that, where if the proper pucks are going to Connor and he's shooting, that guy can collect the rebounds. He can also pass really well and all those kinds of things, where if Connor's just going to try and score, let's put him with people who will actually make that happen for him. And then that leaves, like, I don't even know who would play on the other line. Maybe Nemestikov, maybe I follow. I don't. And that's the hole to me that the Jets need to address the trade deadline, but that's a conversation for another day. But I think Kyle Connor and Cole Perfetti should play together. And I know Ehlers and Scheifele, they've never been tried out for long periods of time, but there's always something a little bit off about them. Like, but I'm not giving up on it yet. And I want that pairing to go together. And honestly, throw Gabe Vilardi in that line instead. I don't care. Like, I think those are the pairings that I would want the Jets to run with.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of the thought process to get there. But I think with myself, like, I for sure want to see Scheifele and Ehlers together. I think that there are two things that lead me to, my decision making here. Actually, three. I want to see Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele separated, because I think that Mark Scheifele will never, ever, ever be able to be as good of a top line centerman as he can be while he's playing with Kyle Connor, whether that be due to defensive impact, whether that be to the fact that he wants to give the puck over to Kyle Connor instead of shooting it himself. I just don't think that those two guys work together. I think that Cole Perfetti has had a phenomenal season and deserves to get a bump. And I want to see Scheifele and Ehlers together. So all of that leads me to say I would like to see a line of Perfetti, Scheifele, and Ehlers together. Kyle Connor with Gabe Vilardi and whoever the other guy is. I would say Nemestikov, because I think that he has shown a little bit more consistency than Iafallo has recently. But of course, he is hurt. Anyways, we are already 25 minutes into this show here. So I think we're going to bookend the talk on the game and just the general things, because we are pretty much at the quarter season mark here today, guys. So we are going to go through the team. We are going to give a grade to each player. We're going to give a grade to the coaching staff, the team as a whole, and whatever else. Lyss, I would love for you to start us off here. We're going to start with Kyle Connor. What is your grade on the season for him so far?
Okay, so looking at Kyle Connor and every other player, I will say, so we're using a letter grading scale, A+, A minus, all the way down to F, classic American report card style. And the kind of general rule of thumb we went with is this is all relative to expectations. It's because otherwise it would just be, Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele are good at hockey and maybe others not as much kind of thing. So it's all relative to expectations. B is, if anyone gets a B, it means that's who I thought we were getting out of it. So it's all relative to personal expectations. So all that being said, Kyle Connor gets a B. Kyle Connor gets a B. Kyle Connor is playing Kyle Connor hockey right now, and I don't have much else to say.
Yeah, I have him also listed as a B. I mean, he's been really good in the sense of he's scored a lot of goals this year. He's sitting at 14 goals, but I think that he really needs to round out the rest of his game in order to exceed my expectations, because I expect him to score goals. I expect him to be a bit of a defensive liability. That's the guy we got. I expect him to make some nice plays every now and then, but I also expect him to maybe overthink things a little bit. So B. Over to Mark Scheifele. Lyss, Mark Scheifele, what do you got for me?
Mark Scheifele gets an A- from me. I think Mark Scheifele has been very good this season, and it's he's just always been a confusing player where it's like I defend him, but then I also dislike him and all these kinds of things. So coming into the season, I was expecting him to be defensive liability, score a lot of goals, and play some fun-ish offensive hockey. He looks pretty dialed in, and I think he's been one of the Jets' best players so far this year. So he gets an A- from me.
Yeah, for Scheifele, I have him at a B+, so just under what you have. I think you hit the nail on the head. He has come out. I will say he has shown a much better effort to be a defensive player this year. The results are what they are. I think they're still getting kind of killed in regards, not killed, but they are still losing the first line matchup as usual. But I do at least see a lot more effort, and in specific moments, I do notice that he is picking up his man in the defensive zone a lot more. Again, I would love for him to shoot the puck a little bit more, because again, this guy can score goals, but all in all, I'm pretty happy with him this year. Let's
100%.
move on over to Ehlers.
Yes. Okay. Ehlers gets a C+-ish, teetering on there for me.
Wow.
My expectations
Hot
are really high
take.
for this player. My expectations are really high from this player, and as an aggregate, he's looked better. He's definitely looked better in the last couple games, the last stretch of 10 games. But as a whole, he's not fully been what I want him to be, what I know he can be. He's still probably the Jets' best player. But like relative to what I want to see from him, he's not doing it for me. I got a C+ written down. And I love him. He's the best. I want a little more. I want a little more.
I have him sitting at a B. I have him sitting almost exactly where I expect him. The one thing that I will say, I did take into account the fact that he had a slow start, and that kind of definitely brought him a bit down. Otherwise, I probably would have said that he is maybe an A-, maybe a B+, A-, because I've really liked at least what he's been doing with the game recently. But I also think that I can discount the slow start to he didn't play any preseason games, right? So, that I think personally took a bit of a, my that's what I thought at least. As we finish up that top line, I'm just going to mention a couple things in the chat here. Let's see. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say everyone's given their own grades as well. Please, I'd love to see because Brady and I sometimes we're two peas in a pod, so sometimes we have similar takes, and if we're just sitting here talking, we're like, yeah, it makes sense, and we might be way off base. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. So you can flip through those, and then now. Oh,
I have it. Sorry. On Kyle Connor, we've got Voice of Fire saying a soft B+. Lucas Trapp saying problem is that he's been sitting at 14 goals for 5 games now. And Lucas also saying he agrees with you on Ehlers. He's had a slow start, but has been picking it up. Voice of Fire also says A for Scheifele, and then B for Nikolai Ehlers. Anyways, sorry, continue.
Awesome. No, I was just going to say, so that kind of covers that first line that we've talked about. Speed round. Let's go. Give me your grades for Perfetti, Nemestikov, and Iafallo.
Okay, Perfetti, starting off, he gets an A from me. The only reason he does not get an A+ is because he was not able to hunker down and get that that center. He wasn't able to fully fit into the center position. Otherwise, this guy has been phenomenal. He has more goals this year than Mark Scheifele, despite playing like 10 minutes a night. This player has given the Jets depth scoring, and I'm super hyped on him. Nemestikov gets a B+, kind of exactly what I expected him. Used as kind of the, he goes wherever, the Matthew Perreault type of just playing him with whoever, and still was able to make that second line have a bit more juice than it maybe could have had. And then Alex Iafallo, I have him sitting at, I debated between a B+ or a B- and a C+, because I think he had a good start to the season. He has looked good, but over the past few games, he really has shown that he doesn't really fit in on that top line, and I really wish he did, because I thought that could have been a place where he might have been able to find a spot. But right now, I'm kind of struggling with where I put him in the lineup, because he's been a bit of inconsistent. Your lightning round. Sorry, that wasn't that lightning. Yeah, for myself.
No, it's all good. Okay, yeah. Cole Perfetti also gets an A for me, and the reason he doesn't get a plus is because I was shooting for the stars with my expectations for him. I thought he was going to be good, and he is good. But he's been even better. He's so fabulous. He's so fabulous. Nemestikov gets an A from me. I did not expect him to be able to sustain that second line role as well as he has for as long as he has. I know he's an all situations guy, but this was a big ask, and I think he's been excellent. So he gets an A from me. I'm very impressed with him so far. Alex Iafallo gets a B. Take with a grain of salt my expectations for anyone who was brought in this offseason, because I didn't really know what to expect. So I think we can definitely say that his last 10 games haven't been as good as his first 10 games.
Mm-hmm.
But in the aggregate, I'm fine with him. He's just kind of there. I don't have any beef with him, though.
That's fair. Alrighty. Well, moving on over to what has been the most consistent line of the season, the third line. Nino Niederreiter, do you want to go player by player or just lightning round it again?
I'll lightning round that whole line. Okay. So this one, we got lowest grade on this line is Adam Lowry with a B+. Only reason he gets a B+ and not higher than that is because I was ready for him to come in and be the player that I know he can be, that he is for like 30 out of 80 games in a season. And he has been so far, and I'm really pleased with him. And he probably teeters more to an A. I think the world of him, though. So that's why the expectations were high. And he's like, the captaincy, he's fired up. Like, he seems just excited and everything. So B+ for Adam Lowry for me. Nino Niederreiter gets an A. I've been really pleased with him. I know he's been known to be more of a streaky player, that maybe not always the most consistent. He's been extremely consistent and consistently good. And he is the reason that third line has been as good as they have been. As soon as he was added to that line, that was the secret sauce that really brought them and elevated them to the next level. My first and only A+ of the day goes to Mason Appleton. And that is because I am a recovering Mason Appleton hater. I was not big on this player last year. He was so nothing to me. He was so forgettable and all these different kinds of things. He's been pretty good. So I've been really pleased with him. And I'm though, I do consider Nino Niederreiter to be what I said, like the secret sauce in that line. I don't like it. All three of them are key instrumental parts of that. And Adam Lowry has played with Mason Appleton for a while, so that's why I give the nod to Nino Niederreiter. But Mason Appleton gets an A+ from me.
Incredible. I went very much on the same lines as you, except I actually have it flip-flopped. I have Nino Niederreiter as my worst grade on the line. Initially I had him as a B+, but I figured he deserves an A-. He deserves an A-. I think that he has been so instrumental in allowing that third line to actually technically be used as a second line, because we all say it's the third line, it's the second line. They play the second most of any line. That's the second line, realistically. And I think that the way that he plays, his tenacity, his scoring ability has also allowed for this, has been so instrumental in allowing for this line to play as many minutes as they are. So he gets an A. But again, I also really like Nino Niederreiter. I've been a big fan of him for a while. So in regards to my expectations, I expected good, but I didn't expect him to be able to completely revitalize the line. But expectations is the important thing. So the two players who I have both sitting at an A are Adam Lowry and Mason Appleton. Mason Appleton, for the reasons that you listed, I also not necessarily was a hater, but just didn't really believe in him. He's come onto this line and shown that he deserves to play as a third line guy, whereas I kind of just seen him as a fourth line guy on most teams. Realistically, you would want him to be a fourth line guy on this team if the Jets had the ability to. But he's been phenomenal this season in regards to just playing, really helping that line form its identity. He's been able to put some pucks in the net as well too, so he gets a good nod for that. At one point, he was the leading scorer on the team. And then Adam Lowry, like, this goes both as the fact that, one, I never expected Adam Lowry to really be able to handle second line minutes and win those matchups constantly. He has, you look at the game the other night against the Oilers, he was in McDavid's kitchen all night. And also on top of that, I know it's the intangibles, but this guy's the captain now, and it really feels like this is his team. And I think that is something that we really need to, emphasize, because the vibes are, despite the losing streak, the vibes are really good with this team even still. And I think that Adam Lowry has had a big key in establishing the vibe for the room, as well as ensuring that, nothing goes the way of the past. So he gets an A for me as well. That second line has been great.
Oh yeah, and as a collective, the line gets an A+. They've been really good. We
Absolutely.
have Voice of Fire in the chat says the line gets an A from him. 100%. Yeah. So okay, the last forwards that I have here, I have Morgan Barron, David Gustafsson, Rasmus Kupari. That might be it. That might be all I have left. Is that all you have left?
Yep, looks like it.
Okay, I'll speed around those super quick. Morgan Barron gets a C+. I was ready for him to pop off a little bit this year. I really was. The last season left me wanting more, and not in a bad way, in a way of like, okay, this player is more than I was expecting him to be. But now he's just kind of been fine. I wanted him to be good. I really did want him to be good. So he gets a C+.
Yeah.
It's a very benign grade. I don't mean to be hard on him. David Gustafsson gets a B+. Again, I love that guy. I love David Gustafsson. So I will always expect him to be a 30-goal scorer if he gets the minutes to do so. I adore him. I adore that boy. So he gets a B+, and Rasmus Kupari gets a B from me because I didn't know what to expect. I will say I don't think I was expecting as much as we've gotten from him in the stint that he's played. So pleased with him. I didn't realize how fast he was. I didn't realize how smart he was. So he's been good, but I wasn't my expectations weren't set almost at all. So take that one with what you will, but I have no beef with the fourth line. If players are too much one thing or another, it makes it difficult to manage a fourth line. Those guys are all exactly where they need to be. And it's nice to know that if they need to be promoted for a couple shifts or something like that, that they're able to do so. So yeah. No complaints.
Absolutely. I have Barron right at a B. I agree with you in regards to I was hoping for more from him this year. I was hoping for him to break out a little bit more, but I also look at this realistically, like he's just because he's on the fourth line. So at the same time, it's like he's not really given a ton of room to really run with things. And even in the nights where I remember there was the game when they played the 11 forward 7D and then Kupari gets hurt. The coaching staff didn't really use that chance to allow Barron to get some shifts with some of the better players. And I would have loved to have seen that just to see what he could have done. But it is what it is. He has been kind of the exact player, we expected from him. Big guy, skates fast, hard to play against. And yeah, I mean, this kind of goes for the entire line, really, because that entire line has been I would say better than expected. Like I've got Gus at a B+, just because he has been able to contribute offensively, and the fact that he didn't even start as one of the roster players this year, one of the starting players this year. So he's come in, he's provided a little bit of offense from back there. He's kind of cooled down now, but he's great on the PK, big body. I love seeing Gustafsson out there. And as far as Kupari, again, I didn't have a ton of expectations for him. He's fast, he's skillful, stable. He looks like he's got, all the Jets fans were really excited at what he was bringing early on in the season. But since then it had, he also at the same time wasn't able really to finish anything. So it was kind of tough to really be in his corner, fight the good fight for him to get more minutes, because he still wasn't scoring despite all the good looks he was getting. And of course, then he gets injured. And obviously we didn't really mention him, but Gabe Vilardi, we're not giving a grade to, just because, it's been difficult for him. If I was going to give him a grade off of tonight's game, I'd give him an A+, considering he's still playing with a knee brace on and looks so good on that one power play goal. That one power play goal was so nice. Just two guys draped on him.
You watch it more and you're like, how was he so chill? Like in that situation, like, and it was such a sneaky good, like, so good. No, yeah, he gets it incomplete for me, and so does Axel Janssen-Fjällby, just because haven't seen enough yet, but yeah. Okay, jumping into the D pairings, I'll start with the top pair, Josh and DeMello, both get a B from me.
Yeah.
And that's not to say, are you on the exact same page?
Yeah, like I struggled with Morrissey, because while he has been good and I expected him to be good, I also expected some regression too, because I don't know, like he doesn't seem as dominant as he was last year. But at the same time, he's still putting up points. He's still looking a lot closer to how he was last year than maybe some years prior when we were a little bit worried about him. But yeah, and same thing with DeMello, like again, steady top pair guy, plays with Morrissey. He's his other half. He is what he is.
two studs. That's it. That's it. That's what it is. Next pairing. This is where my grades get fun. Brendan Dillon gets an A- from me. Neil Pionk gets an A. And here's why. I didn't like those guys. I was done with them last year. I was sick of that pairing. I was like, what are they ever doing? I was very hard on them last year, and I was just expecting more of the same this year. I was expecting to sit there and with my head in my hands watching them play sometimes. I have not done that this year, other than the odd boneheaded play that you will always get from every defenseman to ever exist. Those guys have been good. They have been excellent, and I was not expecting that at all.
Interesting. I agree with you on one of those, but I think Neil Pionk's had an incredible start to this season. I think that he has completely he's looked great. He's looked great for me. I was in kind of the same camp as you, being a little harder on him than maybe he deserves. Again, also with all the trouble that he went through this season, we all know his affiliation with Adam Johnson. He has really stepped up this year. It has been phenomenal to see what's the word? Not a reestablishment, a return to form, maybe from years past. He looks a lot more comfortable out there. His skating looks better. He doesn't look like he's fighting an injury, which I would argue he's kind of looked like he has been for the past 2 seasons.
Yes.
He looks good. And I'm happy to have him playing second pairing minutes when he's playing like this. I've really liked him. The player I don't agree with you on is Brendan Dillon. I don't know what it is with him. I really expect more out of him in regards to him being good, at least defensively, and really genuinely the only thing I can think of that he has done this year is he scored those 2 goals against I want to say it was against the Coyotes that one game or whenever it was, and he's fought like 2 or 3 times. And that's it. And I don't think that fighting is necessarily a positive. It is great in order to get the guys going, get the intensity up. But I don't think overall it is what I look for in a defenseman. I have Brendan Dillon as C+. I'll be honest with you. He's and maybe this is me being harsh on him because I and also like losing a bit of sight with the expectations versus everything.
Yeah. That's fair.
So realistically, I didn't expect him to be great or anything, so I should probably bump him up to like a B-B. But initially, I when I first wrote down number 5 on my list, I put him down as a C+ with my gut. So it is what it is. Maybe I would love to hear what people think in the chat if they disagree or agree with me. But
They're more on my side as of right now. So just so you know.
It is what
but
it
the
is.
thing with Brendan Dillon is that last year I wanted him traded. I wanted him traded more than Neil Pionk last year. I did not want him on my team because and right now I think part of the reason that I am pleased with him is also because of Neil Pionk. It's really hard when you're glued to your partner. Like if DeMello was having an awful season, it would reflect poorly on Morrissey and vice versa. The fact that Neil Pionk is better just makes them look better. And I think as a collective, like I'm sure like their Corsi numbers have to be a lot better than they were last year. And even like high danger chances against, but I think they just look better as a pairing, and I don't think it would be fair of me to not give a good grade to Brendan Dillon when now I'm fine with him being on the ice. I'm happy when he's on the ice, when last year I wanted him gone. So
yeah, I get that, and that's fair. But also at the same time, I know this is veering off the path. Let's just say hypothetically, Ville Heinola comes back. He's in the lineup.
Stop.
So I just want to say that Nate Schmidt is not is there you are, exactly. Let's just say
my contraband sweater.
Let's just say Ville is in the lineup and he is inserted himself. He's in the spot that Nate Schmidt usually has been playing this year. And then the Jets make a trade at the deadline for a strong, good D-man or whatever, a top 4 D-man. Who are you taking out? Because in my mind, Brendan Dillon is the easiest, like, of all of the defensemen. I think he has the least amount of upside, and at the same time, it's like, if they're trading for a defenseman, let's just say it's Chris Tanev, because that's the archetype that they're looking for. They're looking for not necessarily an offensive guy, but maybe like a bit more of a shutdown guy. They could probably pair with Morrissey, drop DeMello down the lineup. Like it just feels like Brendan Dillon, of all of the 6 D-men who regularly play for the Jets, he's the one who I feel like is the odd man out. Maybe I'm wrong in thinking that, but I've liked what Sandberg was able to do with Pionk earlier in the season. So I think that he just kind of is.
And then Heinola DeMello. Yeah, no. 100%. Sorry.
No. But anyways, you can continue on that if you want, or we can transition over to.
Yeah, we'll move on right away. But my answer to that is, I probably take him out if you're getting shut down, whatever sort of pairing guy. Like if you're bringing in another, like a Declan Chisholm sort of type, that side of player, like it's Neil Pionk that comes out for me, even like, and that's a crazy take, but you can't have that many of that player on there. If you have Heinola and
then
Morrissey,
Heinola comes out then realistically.
No, I know. I would take Brendan Dillon out if we got a better defenseman. Like there's no question about it. But like for right now, he is not like, he is playing tough matchups. We know how sheltered that bottom pairing is, which we'll get to them, and they are still having positive results. So I can't rag on the guy for now. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. I'm open to it. But he's been good when he's been asked.
That is very fair. Geez, I had something else to say and I completely forget now. I'm completely blanking. But anyways, with that, let's continue back onto the train of grades here. Dylan Sandberg as well as Nate Schmidt. I'm going to jump in here first. Sandberg gets a B- for me, and this is purely based off of expectations because I really like Dylan Sandberg. I really like him. He's one of my guys who, when I'm talking to, my dad, when I'm talking to my family, whoever it is about hockey, I always love to give him a little bit of love. I think that this year he has been very good, but at the same time, he has had a lot of moments, if you know what I mean by that. He's had a lot of oopsie daisies. An example is the game tonight. Like, the brutal pass he tries to make backhand while he's got a guy draped on him up the middle, when he's got, Declan Chisholm in the corner, providing him an outlet to just, hand it off to. I just think that he could maybe tighten his game up a little bit. I think that he's been really good, but I think that when things have gone bad with him, he's just one of those guys that, when you're cheering for a guy and you're in his corner always, you tell your friends and family you love this guy, you think he's good for the team, and then he just makes a boneheaded play that is just such a stick out obvious thing that where you can't defend it. Like that is how I feel. Brady, Dylan Sandberg.
My favorite hockey player is Ville Heinola. That's my life. That's how I live.
But you know what I mean though, right? Like, I think that Sandberg has unfortunately had a lot of errors where he looks really bad. But as a whole, I think he's been still really good. I think, and if you look at the money puck or whatever things, I remember you were mentioning it when you're talking with Murat the other day. Him and Sandberg have been him and Schmidt have been really good together. So, again, it's just those moments that drive me a little crazy. Like just like his voice of fire is saying in the chat, that he drives him crazy with his passing sometimes. So he gets a B- for me, and then Nate Schmidt gets a B+ from me. I like Nate Schmidt. I'm willing to say it. I'm willing to stand up here and say Nate Schmidt, if he made $3 million, no one bats a goddamn eye at him. If Billy Hinola isn't potentially, fighting for a spot, nobody bats an eye at him. I think that he is solid. I'm pretty sure if you look last year at his, I remember his Dom card was really good. Dom from The Athletic. I don't know. I just think that Nate Schmidt is hated on a little too much. I think that he is able to play the puck pretty well. At the same time, I don't think that he, 100% should be cemented in this lineup or anything like that. But I think that he has been better than a lot of people give him credit for. So therefore, I give him a B+.
Yeah, okay, that's fair. Dylan Sandberg gets a B+ from me. I like Dylan Sandberg, don't get me wrong, but I was always a little bit of a non-believer in Dylan Sandberg, if I'm being honest with you. Like, I never thought this was going to happen for him. I really didn't. I didn't think he was going to be an NHL regular on this team.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always a little bit sus of him. I don't know. But he's been really good this year. Like, I think and I know what you're talking about for sure. And like, that's why he doesn't get like an A or an A+ or whatever. But I think in the situations that he's been put in, he's managed quite well. And I also think I really like watching him kill penalties. I find that he positions himself so well. Like, I think he's a really smart hockey player. So he gets a B+ for me. Nate Schmidt gets a B. I have no ill will towards Nate Schmidt either. Like, I 100% agree with you. 100% agree with you that the price tag plays a huge factor because people want him to play like a $6 million player and he just doesn't play like a $6 million player. But it doesn't mean he's bad, because there are a lot of guys who are really good $2 million players. He's a really good $2 million player. Yeah. So he gets a B from me. I think he's been pretty good. Honestly, not a lot of notes on Nate Schmidt.
For sure. And I know that you ended up putting an incomplete for Logan Stanley. I gave him a B- because I wrote his name down and then was like, sure. What
were you expecting him to do?
I'll be honest with you. Maybe I should change this to a B+ because I actually thought he was better than I expected when he did play.
Right. Yeah.
But at the same time,
you just put him in these rankings just to hate him.
I think.
Sounds like something I would do.
Here's the thing, Kate. Not based on expectations, just straight up his play. I would say he's like a B- to a C. Whereas expectation wise, he's a little bit better than I expected. He was throwing his body around in the 1 or 2 games he played, and that's all I've ever asked for from him. If he's gonna be big, don't be big for nothing. And then other than that, he's he is what he is. But anyways, that finishes off the defensive rankings. Now we get to a very interesting set of players. We have Connor Hellebuyck and Laurent Brossoit.
Boy, I almost don't want to start on these because I might be way off. But okay, Connor Hellebuyck gets a C+ from me. Laurent Brossoit gets a C.
Wow. Okay. All right. I'll give mine, and then we can dive into both of these.
Okay.
So, I think that I lost touch with the in comparison to expectations, because I have Hellebuyck at a B+, but I also think that now in remembering that in comparison to expectations, B-, because B. He gets a B. We know that he starts the season off slow. He started the season off slow, but I think that he has really found his game recently, and he's coming back to the player who we know he is. So he gets a B. I think that I can't go any worse on that, or I think I'll get shot by the Jets fans.
No, that's exactly. It's the same thing as I throw him into the Ehlers category, right? Where I'm like, I can't be a Jets fan and give Connor Hellebuyck or Nikolai Ehlers a failing grade, really, because they're so important to this team. But like, my expectation at this point is that Connor Hellebuck plays like a Vezina winner every single game. He hasn't played like a Vezina winner every single game, so that's why he bumps down to a C+ for me. Like, it's not deep, it's not personal, it's whatever. It's just that, but yeah, he does start off slow. He tends to. You're right. And he's still a very good goalie. And he's still like, I think last game against Edmonton, it was so like that Darnell Nurse goal was so upsetting because that was a phenomenal performance. Like he was exceptional. And so we're getting there. But and Brossoit just hasn't given me much to, and I really like him. So I was really excited to bring him back this year. I was like, finally, it's gonna be massive upgrade on who did we have last year? Dave Riddick or something?
Big save Dave. No save Dave.
Big save Dave. No save Dave. Red light Riddick or whatever.
Red light Riddick.
But he's just not done it for me. I don't know. Maybe
Lyss,
she's a bit harsh.
Lyss,
Uh-oh.
I haven't given my grade yet for Laurent Brossoit.
Uh-oh.
The one and only F.
Oh, okay. I was waiting for an A+. I was waiting for an A+. I was
absolutely not. Initially I wrote him down as a D, but I think that if anyone is deserving of an F, and I think that one player should be, it is Laurent Brossoit. Again, the only reason I initially went to a D instead of an F was because what can we expect really from him when he only plays, like once every 5 or 6 games, right? So it is kind of tough to find your footing, but I don't care. This guy was brought in here so that Connor Hellebuck didn't have to play 60 games this year. And it looks like Connor Hellebuck is going to have to play 60 games this year. When you put your backup in the net and your team is scared for your life because a Roman Josi shot from the fucking corner can go in, no, absolutely not. My expectations was that he would be okay, and he has been bad. He has an 877 so far. I love Laurent Brossoit. I love him. I'm glad that we brought him back. I was just really, 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 really hoping that he could provide us with decent backup, and he so far hasn't. That's all to say. I don't think that it's not that I think that he can't find it. I think he can figure it out. And time, especially with goalies, time can be a very big one. But I think that maybe he's just got to get past it, get it out of his head. But yeah, tough. Alrighty.
That's so funny. That was so like answering a school project. Like, here's the question from the teacher. It's like we're doing these gradings based on. It's like my expectation was that he would be okay, but the reality is he has been bad.
Yeah,
and that's kind of just the truth. Like
it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah, but I believe.
Anyways, okay, we are going to wrap this all up with coaching staff, team as a whole, power play, and PK. I think we should do power play and PK first.
Okay, my first and only D goes to the power play. I hate that power play. That power play is the reason I have nightmares. They get a D. They're so bad. And it's so funny to say that too, because all of these players, and I realized, okay, we did an episode of the Jet Centric podcast years ago, and it was so funny. It was one of my favorite episodes I've ever recorded. We did it with, I don't remember if you were there or not, but with Kishore. And it was one year when the penalty kill was so bad, and we were doing like mid-season report cards, and every player Kishore would knock down by like a full letter grade if they were part of the penalty kill, because he was like, these guys stink. And that's honestly what I should be doing with anyone who's part of the power play. Bam, bottom of the pyramid, because that power play stinks. They get a D from me.
Okay, I was a little less harsh. The PP I gave a C- to, because we saw how friggin' terrible they were last year. I think they've been slightly better, and I've at least seen flashes of what I want to see, which is some frickin' movement. I just want them to move their feet and not stand around and pass it around the outside, because everyone knows what's going to happen. And I think that Velarde coming back will improve that as well too.
Are they going to pass it to Connor? Are they going to pass it to Connor?
They might. They might. Source. And then the PK I give a C- to as well, because again, last year they were just so good that the again, I expected them to be better, that's for sure. But I also think that I've said this many times, your most important penalty killer is your goalie. And I think that, the penalty kill has looked a little bit better, at least since Connor Hellebuyck has found his footing. So as a whole, maybe a C minus, I don't know, around there. Also just before we, get to our last few rankings here, we got a decent amount of people here in chat. Make sure you guys do like the stream, give SDPN a sub on YouTube here. We're almost at 100K subs. Please get that going. Anyways, coaching staff and team as a whole.
Oh, penalty kill gets a C+ for me, by the way.
Oh, sorry. I thought you mentioned the penalty kill.
I was just so mad about the power play that okay. Okay, so coaching staff gets a B+ from me. And the reason is and then I'll bleed this into my team. The team gets an A from me. I was ready to sell this team. I was not on board at all at the beginning of the season, and my mind has been changed. My worries still exist and all those kinds of things, but they've been playing structurally really good 5-on-5 hockey. And they've been doing a lot of the things that they struggled with last year. They're doing excellently this year. Their transition play is quite good. I just think a lot of the players look better and all these kinds of things. I was just not on board with this team. And they are good and I believe in them. And that's a big thing to me, is believing in a team. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, like this is a yoked shooting percentage, or like this is like kind of like an outlier or whatever. No, this team is playing like actually good hockey, and the outliers are the things that are going poorly for them. They're Darnell Nurse scoring from the blue line to change the momentum in a game when Connor McDavid's been contained for 55 minutes. Like this is a good hockey team, and I still believe in them. The coaching staff, so they get a B+. Just generally speaking, I'm still not a fan of some of their choices when it comes to, like playing defense and throwing Adam Lowry out at 3-on-3 and like little things like that. Like there are some decisions I don't really like. But I did have expectations for this coaching staff, so those kind of negate for a B. But the reason they get a plus for me is because Scott Arniel is not the stepfather. He's the father that stepped up. He really
Sorry, continue.
No, like he Vladimir Mestikov it up,
Yeah. That's a great comparison.
When he had to. And I'm very pleased with him. And people were not always kind to Scott Arniel last year, and I probably wasn't either. Like, and you know what? He did what he had to do. He did more than what he had to do. So good for you, Scott.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. For me, the coaching staff gets, I struggled with this because personally, I have them at a B. I think that they have done worse than I would expect, but also better than I would expect. But then also all of the, personal stuff comes into it, and they handled that all really, really well with Scott Arniel coming in. So as a whole, I think they get a B, maybe a B+. I have the same gripes with you in regards to, specific little things like putting Lowry out on the 3-on-3. But I also think that right now, the way that they are structuring the team is not great. We already kind of mentioned this, talking about having Scheifele, Ehlers, and Connor all together. I think it's a little too many eggs in one basket. I also think that when you go back to previous games, they weren't fantastic at adapting on the fly to how the other team was playing. I'm glad that in the Dallas game we ended up seeing, putting Scheifele, Ehlers, and Connor together, because that's when you should put those guys together when you are chasing a goal. But I don't think that necessarily should be the entire thing. They get a B, both for exceeding expectations when, tragedy and terrible things have come around, but also they get a bit of a knock for doing the classic coach things, deferring to maybe a less good player when you need a goal and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And then the team as a whole, I initially had as a B+. I'm going to give them an A- for all the reasons you mentioned. Coming into the season, I was fully on the sell train, just like you were. I thought that they should trade Hellebuyck, trade Scheifele, get what they can for them, and maybe be in the gutter for a couple of years and really try to build up from that. This team has shown that they have they've got some juice left in them. So I'm really excited what they're able to see, or what they're able to do down the stretch. I think that this team is much better built for adversity. I know that we had Lucas asking if there's going to be a grade for management. I don't think that really makes, it doesn't really work at a quarter season, because like, what have they really done? The only thing that we can mention is, of course, the Dubois trade, which as we've seen has been pretty good.
Yeah, and also I nod to the personal stuff that you talked about. I think everything about Judy Bonus, everything about Adam Johnson, I think they've managed things really well
Yeah.
this year, and that's coming from someone who's been hard on them. So as far as like maybe we'll give them a grade after a trade deadline and see what happens kind of thing.
Yeah.
But for right now, it's entirely not operational for me, and I'm pleased with them. So
For sure. Well, that's it. I mean, we both have the Jets sitting at an A compared to our expectations coming into this year. I had an A minus. Was yours just a straight up an A?
Straight up an A. Yep.
Well, hey. It's a fun time. Well, an interesting time to be a Jets fan, that's for sure. At least they did break their.
No, you could say fun.
It is fun. It is fun. They finally broke their 3-game losing streak. No need to push the panic button, which we might have had to do if they lost tonight. But they come out with a win 3-1 on top of the Blackhawks. Normally we do questions, but we have already gone on for over an hour. So thank you so much for spending your time with us. We really do appreciate it. We love all the interaction in the chat here tonight. This was a fun show. And as Lucas asked, we will likely do another one of these, maybe at half season, maybe closer to the deadline. We'll see. We'll make sure that we do this again. And regardless, we'll have some more shows where Lyss and I are together finally.
Always. For sure. Yeah. We have a couple of fun shows coming up. We have a very exciting guest coming on Monday. I am super looking forward to it. We're getting our boy Jack on the show. You may know him as J Fresh Hockey. He's going to come chat with us after the Carolina Hurricanes game. So that's going to be really fun. A couple of other fun guests and fun shows lined up for the rest of the year. Hopefully some fun stuff over the holidays and all that good stuff. So for everyone who's here live, I've seen a couple of people in the chat have been here the whole time. So thank you so much for spending your Saturday early evening with us. It's been a super fun one. We appreciate you guys. We really enjoy the opportunity to do this and connect with everyone. So make sure you follow us on Twitter. My handle is at Lysshoude, LYSSHOUDE. Brady is at NHL Chunky, exactly as it sounds. We'll be there whenever we're not here. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining tonight. We will see you next time.
Have yourselves a good one. Enjoy your weekend.